So, we're in the final run up to the election, and I thought, in the spirit of fairness, I should cover some of the things the Tories are claiming they handled well, but have hindered them for the past 14 years. First, the pandemic. When it hit, Boris Johnson was in charge. He immediately set about reassuring us that it was nothing to worry about, no more than a common cold. He told us it was okay to shake hands with people and that the way forward was herd immunity, where the virus would be allowed to run free through the population. When he actually listened to the scientists, he decided on a lockdown policy, but to make it easier for everyone, he delayed introducing it until COVID could really take a grip. As part of the restrictions, we weren't allowed to mix with people outside our bubbles, unless we worked in Downing Street, where both Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak were given fines, along with numerous others, only some of them getting a seat in the House of Lords. And while they did this, the rest of us couldn't even visit dying relatives in hospital or bury them with all our families present. He wasted millions on Nightingale hospitals that were never used and billions on track and trace which didn't work. But the vaccine, our rollout was only possible because we left the EU, they say, but this is a lie, often repeated by them. Luckily, while a ring of steel was thrown around care homes that was about as tough as a loop of string, they set up VIP lanes so friends and donors to the Tory party could supply unsuitable, unusable PPE equipment for massive profits, and the cost will be written off by our current Prime Minister at a later date. They taught us the best way to test our eyesight was to drive a car and see what happens, and if people were infected, the best thing to do was encourage them to eat out together among strangers. Second, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. As far back as 2014, the Tories didn't impose any sanctions on Russian oligarchs after the invasion of Crimea, and they tried their best not to after Russia invaded Ukraine. They're nothing if not consistent. They've encouraged Russian money into the UK to be laundered, allowed rich Russians to buy up half of London, and taken Russian donations, even setting up the Conservative Friends of Russia group, and not acted at all when Russia murdered UK citizens right here in the UK. To show just how anti-Russian they are, they forced them to keep buying goods from JCB, owned by a Tory donor, and from a company the Prime Minister's wife has shares in. Boris Johnson even put the son of an ex-KGB agent in the House of Lords. Away from these two issues, they installed Liz Truss as temporary Prime Minister, which resulted in higher mortgages and rents for years to come. They took us out of the EU with an oven-ready deal that wasn't fit for purpose and made trade with Europe harder, almost ended the Northern Ireland peace process, and has resulted in us having less safe food imported. Brexit was replaced with some small international trade deals like the one we signed with Australia that an ex-member of the Cabinet said was a bad deal. Immigration numbers are the highest ever, despite promises to reduce them in all their manifestos since 2010. They've increased NHS waiting lists to record levels. Staff are overworked and leaving at a phenomenal rate. People wait for hours in ambulances and for A&E beds because they're full of patients who can't be released due to the state of the care system. One people are released from early is prison. The court system's broken, prisons are totally full, and the probation service has been decimated. They've allowed our rivers and seas to be a dumping ground for shit, while shareholders and bosses diverted money away from investment and into bonuses and dividends. Schools are crumbling, literally, and staff morale is at an all-time low, with kids learning from teachers who aren't always specialists in the subject. And Gillian Keegan, the Education Minister, thinks she's done a fucking good job. Her words. Train travel is almost as expensive as flying, and we pay to subsidise these private companies. We have more millionaires and billionaires, but the number of food banks has increased, as has child poverty. Rents are at an all-time high, but they didn't see the need for rent reform or an end to no-fault evictions, which has nothing to do with the fact that a large number of Tory MPs are landlords. And then there's been a massive increase in temporary accommodation and homelessness. Local authority costs are blamed on Labour mismanagement, even though some councils in trouble are Tory, and 14 years of Tory austerity is totally ignored. They've rolled back on our climate pledges and now consider opening new coal mines and oil and gas fields somehow a green policy. They subsidise the oil and gas industries and cut subsidies to greener ones. And Rishi Sunak travels mainly by private jet or helicopter. Unsurprisingly, they're telling us to look forward, not back, unless it's to look back at something Labour did, because Labour haven't changed, but somehow Rishi's government is a different one to the one we've had for the last 14 years. But let's look back. We had David Cameron, who came to power on the back of a Brexit vote and promptly buggered off to earn money with the Green Seal scandal. Theresa May, who introduced a hostile environment. Boris Johnson, who lied in Parliament, although the only MP suspended from Parliament was the Labour MP Dawn Butler, who called out his lies, Liz Truss, who crashed the economy, and Rishi Sunak, who promised integrity, professionalism, and accountability on the steps of Downing Street, but went on to enrich himself and Tory donors rather than improving the country. They tell us the economy is improving, but my answer to that is don't look at the financial reports, GDP, RPI, and all that stuff. Look at your bank balance and your outgoings and ask yourself, am I better off now than I was? Am I paying more for food, energy, and general life than I was before this Tory government came to power? But it's not just the economy they gamble on. Oh no, that would infer a degree of integrity. They've been gambling on the date of the election, a date that they set. Their election tactic seems to be to blame Labour for everything, start culture wars around immigration, gender identity, and anything else that causes division, and to use the word surrender because it appeals to reform voters that they want to get back on side. This is your chance to get rid of these corrupt, self-serving bastards. If you're not sure who to vote for, recommend visiting stopthetories.vote. Simply enter your postcode and take it from there.